The morning sun cast long golden shadows across the compound of the Induka family in Umulik village. The rooster crowed again and again, but no one inside the large bungalow stirred. No one except one person. Amaka, the housemaid, was already on her knees scrubbing the long veranda with a bucket of cold water and an old foam. Her fingers were red, her knuckles bruised. The bones in her back screamed with pain, but she dared not stop. If she did, her punishment would come swiftly and cruelly. From inside the house, loud snores echoed from the two bedrooms. Madame Obi, the matriarch of the house, was sleeping peacefully like someone with no worries in the world. Her two daughters, Adora and Ifunanya, were sprawled on their large foam beds, both of them snoring louder than the generator at the village transformer. It was a house full of fine girls and pride, but terribly lacking in virtue. Amaka, a voice tore through the quiet morning like a gunshot. Amaka, where's my hot water? Are you mad? It was Adora, the older daughter. At 24, Adora was known in the village for two things: her beauty and her habit of chasing any man with a big car and a thick pocket. "I day come, auntie," Amaka shouted, abandoning her scrubbing and rushing to the kitchen. There was no gas, only a rusty kerosene stove with soot-blackened pots. Amaka quickly struck a match and began boiling water, whispering a silent prayer that the kerosene wouldn't finish before it boiled. As she stirred, she heard the familiar sound of her madam's slippers dragging across the tiled floor. "Amaka, that's why your life is useless. All you know is eat and sleep. My daughters are fine girls, models in their own right. Rich men will soon come and carry them. But you will rot in poverty. Better go and sweep the compound before I finish you this morning." "Yes, Ma," Amaka said, voice barely audible. Inside, Chief Induka, the father of the house, was already dressed for the day. He was a man of quiet strength, tall and lean, his hair peppered with age and wisdom. He watched from the doorway as his wife continued to pour venom on a girl who worked harder than everyone in the house combined. He cleared his throat. "Obi, Idan do," he said in calm Igbo. "Leave this girl alone. At least she's the only one who knows how to do anything in this house." His wife turned sharply. "Oh please, Induka. Must you always take her side? Do you want her to marry you? Nonsense." Chief Induka sighed. It had been this way for years. Him, watching helplessly as his wife misled their daughters and destroyed any chance they had at becoming real women. To Madame Obi, money was God, and rich husbands were the only thing worth training girls for. "No daughter of mine will marry a poor man," she often said, even in public. "I didn't suffer for this long to suffer again." But the truth was, she had not suffered much. Her husband had always been a simple but decent man. He worked hard as a secondary school teacher, brought home enough to feed the house, and never raised a hand at her. Her suffering came from her envy of other women in town who rode in air-conditioned cars and traveled to Dubai for holidays. Now, she was pushing her daughters into that same madness. "Where are you going dressed like that, Ifunanya?" Chief Induka asked as the younger daughter, barely 20, Kat walked into the parlor in a tiny gown that looked like it had been borrowed from a bar girl. "I'm going to see Chuka," she said with a yawn. "He said he might take me to Enugu today. His driver is coming to pick me. Did you clean your room?" She laughed. "Daddy, that's a mawkish job. Did you wash your pant?" "Yo, Daddy, why are you like this nah?" she cried. Which fine girl washes her pant by herself again? This is 2025. Chief Induka rubbed his head. His heart ached. "Go," he said. "But one day, this your fake life will disgrace you." She hissed and stormed out, dragging her iPhone 13 Pro Max like it was a bag of cement. Amaka was now in the backyard fetching water from the drum. Her back was wet with sweat. Chief Induka came and leaned on the fence beside her. "Amaka," he said softly. She turned and quickly bent her knees in respect. "Good morning, sir. How you day?" "I day, sir. You day try? You day work pass everybody for this house. God day see you. Just endure." Tears welled up in her eyes. No one else spoke to her like a human being in this house. "Thank you, sir," she whispered. That evening, thunder rolled across the skies. Adora came home drenched and limping. Her fine wig was gone, her gown torn. "Jesus! Adora," her mother screamed. "Who did this to you?" Adora collapsed in a heap. It turned out she had been caught red-handed in the hotel room of another woman's husband. The woman and her friends had descended on her with cane, belt, and pure water sachets filled with pepper. She had been disgraced. The whole village heard the story. Chief Induka didn't say anything for days. He just walked around quietly like someone in mourning. But something shifted in Adora. For the first time in her life, she stopped listening to her mother. She started talking to her father more, wearing modest clothes, and even offered to help Amaka cook. Her mother was furious. "This is not my daughter," she yelled. "Who bewitched you?" "You did," Adora said one day. "You are the witch. You trained me to chase men instead of chasing sense." Obi slapped her, but Adora didn't cry. She only turned and walked away. The days that followed Adora's disgrace in Yumulik village felt like harmattan wind scraping bare skin, cold, dry, and cutting deep. Gossip traveled faster than the morning market drums. Mothers called their daughters aside and warned them sternly. "Don't be like Adora and Duka. Fine face is not sense." Adora no longer walked around with her head high. Her long eyelashes that once fluttered like butterflies now drooped under the weight of shame. Her phone stopped ringing. Men who used to send her airtime and cash gifts like Father Christmas suddenly blocked her. Inside the Induka household, the atmosphere was no longer warm with laughter or even argument. It was heavy with silence and friction. The house was now split down the middle. Obi and her younger daughter Ifunanya remained on one side, still proud, still chasing flashy men, still expecting life to bow to their beauty. On the other side were Adora, Chief Induka, and Amaka, united quietly by humility, pain, and the slow birth of self-awareness. One early morning, as the cock crowed and the village stirred, Adora woke up before Amaka. She went to the kitchen, unsure of how to use the matches at first. She struggled to light the stove, but smiled when she finally got it right. She fried eggs, boiled yam, and even swept the front compound with the broom Amaka always used. When Amaka stepped out and saw her, she nearly dropped the basin of clothes she was carrying. "Ani, you day cook?" she asked, her mouth wide open. Adora smiled. "No be everybody way where Brazilian hair sabi cook. But I want learn. Teach me." That morning, they cooked together. They laughed like sisters and even sat together to eat, while Ifunanya stayed in bed, browsing on her phone, waiting to be served. Obi entered the kitchen later, sniffed the air, and frowned. "Who burnt the egg?" she barked. Adora didn't answer. She simply took her plate and left. Later that week, Ifunanya met a young, wealthy man in Enugu. His name was Nonso, light-skinned, well-traveled, and newly relocated from Abuja to open a boutique in town. He drove a sleek Mercedes and wore perfumes that lingered long after he'd left a room. He met Ifunanya at a friend's lounge and was captivated by her beauty. She smiled sweetly, gave him a fake accent, and didn't hesitate to call herself a content creator and entrepreneur, even though her phone memory was full of selfies and WhatsApp videos. Nonso liked what he saw, until he came closer. They began to talk. He visited her house twice. She always appeared beautifully dressed, with perfect makeup and false lashes like butterfly wings. But something felt off. She couldn't offer him water the first day he came. The second day, she called Amaka to sweep the compound while she lounged on the plastic chair, scrolling through TikTok. The third day, he came unannounced. When he got there, Amaka was the only one home. She was mopping the corridor in her faded wrapper and old t-shirt, her natural hair tied up in a scarf. But her eyes, calm, clear, kind, caught his attention. "You again?" Nonso asked with surprise. Amaka stood up quickly and bowed slightly. "Good evening, sir. You're the one that cleaned the place the last time too?" "Yes, sir." "Wait. She sends you to come and clean for her." Amaka hesitated. "She says she doesn't like mop water. It makes her nails soft." Nonso stared at her for a long moment. "And you? You don't mind doing all this?" She smiled, embarrassed. "It's what I'm here for, sir. I work for the family." Nonso nodded slowly. "But you seem smarter than this." That conversation ended with Nonso asking for her full name. Amaka went back inside feeling confused, her heart beating fast. She wasn't used to being seen, truly seen, especially not by a man who smelled like wealth and success. Obi, meanwhile, was busy planning her daughter's marriage in her head. "That boy must marry you," she told Ifunanya one evening. "We'll milk him dry. Nonsense boys from this village no go see your pant. You're too fine for poverty." "But he's not talking about marriage yet, nah," Ifunanya whined. Push him well. Cook for him. I don't know how to cook. Then send Amaka again. Let her cook for you. Again? Mummy, that's like the 4th time this week. Do you want to remain in my house? If you lose this one like your sister, I will skin you alive. So Amaka cooked the food again, jollof rice and plantain, and took it to Nanso's house. But this time, Nanso invited her inside. Sit, he said. No, sir, I'll just drop it. Sit, he repeated gently. So she sat. They talked for nearly 30 minutes. He asked her about school. She told him she dropped out after JSS 3 because her parents died in an accident and her uncle sent her to work as a maid. He listened. She asked him what it was like to live in Abuja. He laughed. He asked her if she liked to read. She said yes. He brought out a small novel from his shelf and gave it to her. Start with this one. She held the book like treasure. He watched her as she left and shook his head. What was happening to him? By the next month, Nanso had stopped calling Ifunanya. She noticed. Maybe he's just busy, she told her mother. But she was wrong. One afternoon, she saw Nanso's car outside his shop and walked in wearing her shortest dress and highest heels. But inside, she found him laughing with someone, Amaka. They were sitting side by side, reading from the same book. She stormed in, her eyes like fire. Amaka, what are you doing here? Nanso stood up, calm and unbothered. She's with me. With you? Ifunanya snapped. She's my maid. Then maybe you should treat her better. What? You want a rich husband, but you can't sweep a room. You send someone else to cook and clean while you take selfies. That's not a wife. That's a liability. Ifunanya stood frozen. Her world collapsed in that single moment. She ran home crying. Her mother chased her down. What happened? That idiot Nanso. He said he wants to marry Amaka. What? Your maid. Obi fainted. That night, the house of Induka was full of war. Obi blamed everyone. Ifunanya cursed loudly. But Chief Induka sat in a corner, laughing quietly to himself. I said it, he said. I said it from the beginning. You refused to train these girls well. You raised them like peacocks and now they can't even boil water. Obi tried to reply, but words failed her. In the other room, Adora smiled as she texted her new boyfriend, Chitara, a struggling furniture maker from Nsukka who had nothing but love and vision. Together, they were building slowly, brick by brick. Across the hallway, Amaka sat on her bed holding the book Nanso gave her to read. Her cheeks glowed with silent joy. And in the farthest room, Ifunanya sat beside her mother, angry, bitter, unmarried, and alone. The village of Umulik, though small, was never short on drama, and in the past few weeks, the Induka family had given its people enough to gossip about for months. They said the first daughter, Adora, had finally grown sense after Shame met her in the hotel room of a married man. They said the second daughter, Ifunanya, who walked around like she was made of diamonds, had lost her rich suitor to her own housemaid. And most shocking of all, they said that Amaka, the orphan maid, was now being visited by a man who drove a Mercedes-Benz and brought her books instead of bread. Wonders shall never end, the women of Umulik whispered during evening market. The dust in the Induka compound hadn't settled since that night. And now, the walls of the house began to reveal what they had been hiding for years: resentment, brokenness, and pride that had silently poisoned every room. In the days that followed Nanso's declaration that Amaka was the woman he wanted to be with, everything in the house changed. Obi could barely speak without shouting. Her once powerful voice, which commanded fear in the household, now sounded like a cracked bell. She paced constantly, like a woman running from her own thoughts. This is spiritual, she muttered over and over. Amaka has bewitched him. Maybe she cooked charm into the jollof rice. But even she knew that wasn't true. The truth was simpler and harder to accept. Amaka was now everything she had failed to train her own daughters to be: respectful, hard-working, humble, and wise. Ifunanya had locked herself in her room for 2 days, refusing to eat or come outside. Her friends stopped calling. The boutique in Enugu no longer sent her new clothes to model. Even her Instagram page, once filled with adoring comments, now stood still. Like her, it had lost its shine. Her mother tried to console her, to remind her of her beauty. My daughter, don't cry. That boy is not your husband. Your own husband will come, and he'll be richer. But Ifunanya stared blankly at the wall. How? She asked one morning, her voice hollow. When I can't even cook Indomie without burning it. When I don't know how to wash my own clothes. When I can't even speak politely to a man unless he's rich. Obi was stunned. The words were too raw, too true. They echoed in her chest like thunder. Meanwhile, the bond between Amaka and Adora grew stronger with each passing day. For the first time in her life, Adora swept the parlor without being asked. She helped Amaka with the dishes. They shared hair creams, laughed over silly stories, and sometimes stayed up late talking about men. Not like foolish girls anymore, but as women who had tasted the sharp blade of regret and learned to be wise. One evening, they sat under the orange tree at the back of the compound. The air was thick with the scent of ripe fruit and firewood smoke. "You've changed," Amaka said softly, looking at Adora. Adora smiled, her eyes far away. "Pain will change you, my sister. I used to think beauty was enough. But it's not." She looked at Amaka gently. "You're beautiful, Amaka. But not just your face. Your heart is beautiful. That's what Nanso saw. And I'm happy for you." Amaka was quiet for a while. "I used to think no one would ever love me," she whispered. "But your father, he always treated me like I mattered. Like I wasn't invisible." Adora nodded. "My father is a good man. My only regret is that I didn't listen to him earlier." They sat in silence, watching the fireflies dance in the darkening sky. Inside the house, Chief Induka watched them through the window. His heart, which had endured years of disappointment and conflict, now found something it hadn't felt in a long time: peace. One Saturday morning, Nanso came with his people. It wasn't a full traditional introduction, but enough to shake the entire village. He wore a simple senator outfit, his beard neatly trimmed. His parents, well-dressed and courteous, stepped into the Induka compound with gifts: yams, crates of malt, baskets of fruit, and one big live goat. They didn't come for Ifunanya. They came for Amaka. Obi nearly collapsed again. Her own daughter, rejected. Her maid, chosen. It was like a bad Nollywood film she couldn't switch off. But Chief Induka smiled all through the meeting. He blessed the young couple, prayed for their future, and later pulled Nanso aside and said, "You are a man of wisdom. My daughter is lucky to have you." Amaka was radiant. She wore a simple wrapper and a gold blouse Adora had lent her. She knelt to greet her future in-laws. Everyone could see she was not the same maid they used to overlook. She was becoming a woman of dignity. As wedding plans began slowly, another change swept through the house. Adora's boyfriend, Chitara, came to visit. He had just gotten a job with a local furniture company in Suka. He wasn't rich, but his eyes shone with determination. Chief Induka welcomed him like a son. He asked questions, not about cars or salary, but about vision, plans, and character. And when Chitara answered wisely and humbly, he nodded in approval. "Adora," he called that night, "you have found someone worth building with. Don't lose him." She nodded, eyes brimming with hope. Ifunanya, on the other hand, became a shadow of herself. The villagers said she had calmed down. She began to learn how to cook from Adora and Amaka. She struggled at first, burning beans, putting too much salt in egusi, but she never gave up. One day, as she stirred ogbono soup carefully, her father walked in. "You," he said with a chuckle, "are finally boiling something other than hot temper." She laughed. It was the first time she had laughed in weeks. "Daddy," she said quietly, "I'm sorry." He came close and placed his hand gently on her head. "I forgive you. But next time, listen to your father. I may not have money, but I have sense." And with that, they both laughed. Real laughter, the kind that heals. Obi sat alone on the front veranda most evenings now. She watched her daughters laugh together, and sometimes she even saw Amaka sitting in the parlor reading aloud while Nanso listened with a quiet smile. Everything had changed. Her home, once ruled by pride and pretense, was now ruled by humility and love. But it came at a price. One morning, Ifunanya said something that left the whole family quiet. "Mummy," she said as she swept the corridor, "you know say now you be my husband." Obi dropped the spoon she was holding. "What do you mean? No man wants to marry me again." "I don't blame them. I don't even want to marry yet. I want to fix myself first. So for now, you're my husband. Let's suffer together." Obi sat down and wept. But these were not tears of shame anymore. They were tears of truth, late, but cleansing. And from the parlor, Chief Induka laughed once again and said, "I said it from the beginning, but what do I know?" Rain fell the morning Amaka wedded. Not the kind of aggressive rain that carries rooftops and floods market stalls. No, this one was soft, graceful, and steady, like a silent blessing from the sky. The type of rain the elders say, not pure sign of acceptance from the gods. The compound of Chief Induka, which had once echoed with quarrels and prideful laughter, was now decorated with palm fronds, rented plastic chairs, and bright ankara canopies. Big coolers lined the backyard, jollof, fried rice, goat meat, pounded yam, and a cow had already been slaughtered at dawn. The air was thick with aroma and celebration. Villagers who once whispered mockingly about Amaka were now rushing to collect their invitations, looking for geli to tie, asking what shoes would match a maid's marriage. Even the palm wine tappers donated their freshest kegs. Nobody wanted to miss the wedding of the year. But behind the drums, food, and dancing, something deeper was happening in the Induka household. The entire family was healing. Early that morning, Chief Induka sat on the front veranda with a clean white towel draped over his shoulder. He was freshly shaved, and his white kaftan made him look younger than his age. He held a cola nut in one hand and a glass cup in the other, nodding to himself. He called out to his wife, "Obi, be anew. Come and sit with me." She came slowly, her own wrapper tied neatly, her eyes tired but calm. She sat beside him without a word, folding her arms across her chest like someone still unsure of how to start apologizing for years of wrong. But Induka didn't wait for her to speak. "Today is not for bitterness," he said. "You see that girl Wei you carry from the village's maid? She is the one bringing honor to this family now." Obi nodded slowly. "I know." He turned to her. "What did you really teach your daughters? To snap pictures and chase men with jeep? See where it led us." "I was wrong," she said, her voice almost lost to the breeze. "I thought suffering was evil. I didn't want my daughters to live my life. I just wanted them to marry rich so I could rest." "You forgot to teach them how to live first," he said. "You were running from poverty and ran straight into disgrace." Tears formed in her eyes. "But Adora forgave me. Even Ifunanya, she's trying." Induka smiled. "It's not too late. But don't spoil Amaka's joy today. That girl has suffered enough in this house." Obi nodded, wiping her tears. "I won't. She deserves happiness." Inside the room, Amaka sat before the mirror. Her hair was packed into a neat bun, decorated with coral beads. Her wrapper, thick George with gold embroidery, sparkled under the small fluorescent bulb. For the first time in her life, someone had painted her lips, powdered her cheeks, and called her beautiful, without it feeling like mockery. Adora stood behind her, adjusting her necklace. "You look like a queen," she said. "I feel like I'm dreaming," Amaka whispered. "I keep waiting for someone to slap me awake." Adora squeezed her shoulder gently. "This is your reality. You earned it. You deserve every bit of this." The door creaked open. Ifunanya stepped in, her eyes swollen but her expression warm. Amaka stood immediately, unsure of what to expect. But Ifunanya walked up to her and hugged her tight. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "For everything." Amaka broke into tears. They both held each other for a long while as Adora clapped softly behind them. "You girls will not spoil my makeup today, oh," Adora said, laughing through tears. Three women, once divided by pride and position, now stood as sisters, united by truth, pain, and growth. The traditional ceremony began with loud drumming and ululation. Nonso and his family were seated under a decorated canopy, dressed in matching blue outfits. The villagers danced, clapped, and blew local trumpets called Oja as Amaka was led out in full glory, holding a calabash of palm wine, her face covered in veil. She knelt before the elders. Her eyes searched for Nonso in the crowd. She saw him. He smiled. Her hands trembled, but her steps were sure. She walked to him, knelt, and offered him the cup. He drank from it. The compound erupted in celebration. "She has found her husband," the women screamed. Gifts were shared. Elders blessed the couple. Goat meat flowed. Beer bottles popped. Adora danced with Chitara, her struggling boyfriend turned hopeful future. Ifunanya joined in, laughing like a girl freed from a cage. Even Madame Obi danced, slowly, cautiously, as though her legs were unsure how to move for joy. But dance she did. Chief Induka watched all of it from a wooden chair under a mango tree. He chewed cola nut and laughed so hard his eyes teared. "I said it," he shouted to anyone who cared to listen. "I said it from the beginning. But what do I know?" Everyone laughed. Even the ancestors, it seemed, were pleased. That night, after the guests had left and the compound was quiet again, the family gathered under the moonlight. Amaka sat beside Nonso, her head on his shoulder. Adora and Chitara shared roasted corn and groundnut. Ifunanya lay flat on the mat, staring up at the stars. Chief Induka cleared his throat. "I want to say something," he said. Everyone turned to him. "We all made mistakes. But look at us now. One daughter has found peace. One is learning. One is married to a good man. And the maid we took for granted has brought light to this house." He turned to Amaka. "My daughter, forgive us. Forgive this family for how we treated you." Amaka stood and knelt. "I forgive you, Papa. I do." Then, to everyone's shock, Obi stood up and knelt too, beside her. "Forgive me," she said, crying. "I was blind. I was proud. You were more a daughter than the ones I carried in my womb. I'm sorry." Amaka pulled her up and hugged her. The others clapped. Ifunanya wiped her eyes and muttered, "Na film we day act." They all burst into laughter. And in that moment, under the soft hush of moonlight, a broken family became whole again, not perfect, but honest. Not rich, but full of riches that money couldn't buy. A week later, as Nonso prepared to take Amaka to the city, the compound felt different. It didn't just look cleaner, it felt lighter. Peace lived there now. So did understanding. As their car rolled away, Amaka waved from the back seat, tears in her eyes. Ifunanya waved back and shouted, "Greet Abuja for me, oh." Adora smiled. "Bring baby soon, oh." And Chief Induka raised his hand and said one last time, "I said it from the beginning, but what do I know?" They all laughed as the car disappeared into the horizon. And just like that, the story ended, not with riches, but with wisdom, with love, with change, and with the quiet knowledge that sometimes the maid becomes the crown.